To buy or not to buy? That is the question. Hello and welcome back to Crypto Curious. So if you saw my last video, you are aware that I found some money, and I, at this point, have gotten the money, put it in the bank, sent it to my exchange, and which is Coinbase, and I went ahead and purchased Bitcoin and had them send it to my personal wallet. Speaking of which, if you find the information on this video of value, be sure to like and subscribe and share the video. And if you really like it, feel free to send a little crypto to any of the addresses that you find on cryptocureencies.tv/support. So the question we've got is, I come into some money and it was enough to buy a few Bitcoin. So a significant amount. The question is, do I buy now or do I wait? Do I hold on to the cash and see what's going to happen? And that's always the issue. Do I buy now or do I wait? Well, let's take a look and see what we've got. As we can see on the list of cryptos, over the last week, Bitcoin is up almost 2%, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but we're talking 2% of, $6,800. Actually, it's down from where it was. It was at 7,300. Okay, so it's dropped by about $500. I will lead with the fact that I purchased at about $7,300. So at this point, I'm down by about $500 per Bitcoin. And I bought several. Does this bother me? Does this worry me? Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think anything of it. But I also have been doing this long enough to realize that the one sure way to get something to drop, to get an investment to drop in price, is to purchase. It happens. It's just the way things are. I can't think of anything that I've ever put money into, investment-wise, that didn't immediately drop in price. Okay, I expect that. But again, I'm not looking at what is the price today, tomorrow, or next week. I'm looking at what is the price eventually going to be? What is the price going to be when this thing tops out? The more I look ahead, the more I'm convinced that my $250,000 Bitcoin prognostication is low. I think it could go much higher. I'm actually hearing people talk about a $500,000 Bitcoin by the time this is all over. And as outrageous as that sounds right now, remember, we're actually in a recession. We are probably going into a depression, which means that people are going to be looking for ways, the people who have money are going to be looking for ways that they can retain or make more of that money. Bitcoin is one of those ways. Let's take a look and see what we've got as far as the charts. So, as usual, looking at the weekly chart, and what I look for are reversal signs. Okay, this is Friday. It's Good Friday, which gives us 3 days before the close of this weekly candle. Okay, and whenever I see a doji, here's a doji, here's a doji. Okay, here's a doji in a weird place. It's in the middle of the run, but here's one at the beginning. These dojis, if you look, they tend to show you that things are going to reverse. If the trend is down, which it was here, they're going to reverse. The trend's going to go back up. May not go up very long, but it tends to reverse. If they're going sideways, well, the previous trend was down, so the next trend must be up. Okay, here's a doji at the top, and we're going to drop, and we did. We've got a doji here, which signals we're going to go back up, and this is about as doji as you can get for a weekly candle. You can barely see the line, and it's slightly green. We could very well reverse next week and start working our way back down. It's a possibility. The other thing is that I fully expect that as we get closer to the halving, which is in 32 days at this point, they're estimating May 13th, which is a day later than it's been most of the last month. Remember, this is not based on a day, it's based on a specific block that gets mined. Since each block takes roughly 10 minutes, they're calculating from the current block out 10 minutes per block until they get to the actual block where the halving is. That's how they calculate this number. So at this point, we're looking at 32 days, just over a month, roughly, before the halving happens. In fact, I fully expect that Bitcoin will slowly rise in price until the halving, and then it will drop off afterwards. A buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. And the reason I say that is if we look at the stock to flow model, we see here, and let's see here, let's do it this way. We see that every time there has been a halving, we also notice that the price has dropped significantly. Now, it doesn't look that significant here, but if we look at it, we're looking at, $700 to $500. That's a fairly large drop in price when you think about it. And that has happened every single time that we have had a halving. The price goes up going into the halving and then drops right after. We are right here. We are slowly working our way up, and then after the halving, I fully expect that the price is going to drop again. To what price, I don't know. It's really going to depend on what price we end up at the halving. I would love to see a $12,000 or $15,000 Bitcoin price by the halving. I don't know that we're going to, but I would love to see it. Right now, one of the biggest problems we see is on a weekly candle, we're seeing a doji 3 days before the candle closes. We're seeing very little volume. The volume is certainly the bull volume is dropping. So people are not as interested in buying or selling for that matter. I mean, the reason it's green is because the candle's green. The minute that candle turns red, this turns red. So really the color is meaningless. It's the size, the amount of volume, okay? And we're looking at a volume of, at this point, a volume of 20. It's very small. No one is buying or selling Bitcoin. But if we look at our buy-sell walls, we see that we have a much larger buy wall than we have a sell wall. That means that people want to buy. The bulls are in control, but the fact that we're showing a doji which says there's buy pressure, but there's not enough to drive the price up. There's not enough buy pressure. There's not enough bullish people to push the price up beyond where the bears are. And so the price is remaining stable. This is not something you want to see often or at all, really, when you're looking at a market. Stable market is not a market where you make a lot of money. If the price remains relatively the same, you're not losing any money, but you're not making any money either. You want to see a market where one side or the other has enough pressure behind it to change the price drastically. That's generally what we see with Bitcoin. At this point, we don't see that. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on this because over the next few weeks, as we get closer to the halving, it very well could be. By this point, generally, I would expect the price of Bitcoin to be going up quite a lot because of this halving. People who are aware of it tend to buy into the halving. That tends to push the price up. I'm not seeing that at this point, but we still got 3 or 4 weeks before the halving actually happens. My hope is that as the halving gets closer, we see more buyers coming into the market and they push that price back up because I absolutely believe and expect that after the halving, very quickly after the halving, the price of Bitcoin is going to drop. And it could drop drastically. If we drop from $6,800, $6,900, $7,000, we could drop down into the $5,000 range. If we drop from the $15,000 range, well, dropping to $10,000 doesn't seem so bad because of where we're at currently, right? Bitcoin at this point is mostly in the very strong hands. We've gone through so many downturns. We shook out all of these people who had weak hands. At this point, we should be slowly working our way up in price. And that's what we're doing. Hopefully we continue to do that. Looking at this current candle that we've got, it bothers me because that doji tends to, not always, but tends to signal a reversal. Well, the trend for the past 4 weeks has been up. If we reverse, that means we start working our way down in price. It's a green doji. That's positive. Hopefully by Sunday, it becomes a little more of a candle. One of the positive things I can say is last week, you'll notice the real body, there's a shadow on top, but no shadow on the bottom for last week. It's a flat bottom. Same with this week. This week is a flat bottom candle. We've got a shadow up on top. Well, that tends to signal a price, a support line. That tends to tell me that this lower price that we're at, which is currently, what is the low? Low is at 67.56 for this week. That says that has support behind it. Prices probably are unlikely to drop below that. It's acting as support. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. So hopefully we see some more of these candles with shadows above and no shadow below. That's a good sign. It means that while there's not a whole lot, the doji says there's not a whole lot of action going on, the fact that it's a flat bottom says that we've hit support and support is strong. Anyway, so yeah, my choice was, do I buy my Bitcoin now or do I wait? Knowing or expecting that the halving is going to drop the price. And my choice was to buy now. Again, not financial advice. You have to do what you feel is best. But when I looked at it and realized what the potential price could be, because for all we know, people are going to look at this $6,800 price and come jumping into Bitcoin and drive the price right up to $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 within a couple of weeks. It could happen. Then I lose my chance to buy Bitcoin at a relatively low price. I figure that as long as I'm buying under $10,000, I'm getting a good deal. I think most everybody else is feeling the same way. We have some support. We have that base mentality of hodlers saying, "Hey, we're under 10,000. We're under 7,000. This is a fantastic price. Let's buy." And I think that's what we're seeing is people, as they find money, are putting it into Bitcoin, and that's slowly working our way up. Time will tell. But that's what I had for you this week. So until next week, keep hodling.